Okay. Hello, gorgeous people. I'll pretend we haven't just been here dishing the dirt for like a few minutes. It's nice to meet you, Tavia.
Likewise, thank you.
I'm like a massive fangirl, you guys. And if you haven't seen Tavia's TED Talk, you definitely have to. She's won like every award on earth, but her TED Talk is so inspirational. It
Yeah.
makes me cry. Like literally, I saw it once, I was like blown away. And then I kind of checked it out before the call so I could remember what it was about and why I was blown away. And I was like, no tears. I've got the makeup on. So let's start with something. You guys remember, no questions we can find on Google, nothing professional and grown up, quirky questions only, please. So,
Oh,
and
I love that.
they know the gig. So, 10-year-old Tavia, what were you
Oh,
like?
10-year-old?
Yeah.
That's a really good question. I was super serious. Uh, oh, you're gonna make me cry. Um, I I grew up, I was born with deformed feet and grew up having multiple surgeries. And I'd have to look back at the medical records themselves, but I feel like 10-year-old Tavia was recovering from surgery and really seeking refuge in stories and in like escaping my body and escaping pain and the loneliness and the isolation of the
Yeah.
hospital through stories.
But I
It's
can,
this is our first question, and I'm already almost in tears. So,
yeah,
like, you're the Barbara Walters of
yeah,
audiobook
I'm getting better
interviews.
at this. It used to take me 30 minutes. No, but I do feel that the core of who we are, I just have this weird that the core of who we are is present when we're 10, that we build on it
Mm,
and we um mostly we add crap to it. And then the challenge when
mm,
we get older is to start peeling all that off of it. But I do feel that the core of who we are is there because that's when we still, and 10 is like relative. It could be 9, it could be 12, but that's where we still give ourselves permission to really dream. Like,
mm.
you know what I
Yeah,
mean? Or we fight for our
yeah.
dreams, or we're quiet and we're afraid of our dreams. But that little core where you, I see, I, I've got this picture of you reading like girl detective books and picturing Tavia figuring out the world and traveling it. And do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think you have your finger on the Tavia Gilbert pulse because I loved Nancy Drew and I loved Hardy Boys, and that was before my time maybe, but my mom gave me those books to read. I read a lot of books about missionaries and people who were traveling um, to be of service throughout the world, and those were really meaningful to me.
I love
And
that.
I just also really, really wanted to be an actress. I dreamed of that, and I was growing up in a small rural town in southern Idaho, so far away from any center of any performance. We had a couple community theaters, which I was devoted to, but yeah, I really wanted to be a world citizen and a performer, artist, writer, producer.
Were you
So
cool at school? Did you have one or two friends? Were you like a rebel? Were you introverted?
I was not cool at all. I had a couple friends. My mom was my best friend, I think, and my grandfather was my best friend.
Oh, I love
Um,
that. Oh, I
I was a
love
rebel
that.
though. Yeah, I was like really outspoken. I remember being on stage at the City Band Shell in Little Twin Falls, Idaho, talking about uh, that I didn't want nuclear waste shipped into Idaho on trains. And um, my dad was a union leader for the teachers union, so I grew up with that sort of dynamism in my household, and
Yeah.
so I was definitely like a fight for the fight for what you believe in, and that didn't make me super cool, but I wouldn't have changed it.
Yeah, you're talking to the girl that went outside to the cool stoners out in front of the school smoking and informed them that my mother said that smoking was going to kill them.
Oh.
So yeah, I get
Also
that.
not that cool, but totally appropriate.
Yeah, very uncool. But what did you learn from your grandfather as your best friend?
He was an oil painter.
Oh,
He
wow.
he was the first in his family to get much education. He had to leave. This was my mother's father. He had to leave school in the eighth grade to work in a laundry to help provide for his family. And he grew up in very rural Iowa. He was not impoverished, but didn't have his family didn't have a lot of means, and he wanted to be an artist. So he studied with Grant Wood in the 30s, maybe late 20s, early 30s.
So he
Grant Wood
chased
is
his
the
dreams.
He did. He actually
Yeah.
hitchhiked across the country to get to where he needed to be, and then he studied only for a couple months with Grant Wood, and then he studied for a couple months at Columbia in New York,
Wow.
and then moved to Idaho, married my grandmother and moved to Idaho, and was a draftsman. And so he made his living as a commercial artist and draftsman, but he was an oil painter at night, and he was really quite accomplished.
Wow.
I have a lot of his paintings in my house and really treasure them. And he was just a very quiet soul, but believed deeply in pursuing your art and not letting anything stop you. But he was also just incredibly humble. He was not a confident person, and I don't think he knew really how talented he was. So I'm really proud to have his legacy.
Do you know what strikes me listening to you tell that story? And I think maybe our writers that we work with have an advantage over me, definitely. But do you not think when you're young, the stories you hear and the things you experience, and because of that kind of clear-eyed, you don't have the influences of all the things the world piles on you. So they're so much richer. Like I'm hearing the story about
Mm,
your grandfather, I'm hearing about your childhood, and it's like there's 20 dimensions to it. And I think like when you reach middle age, like I miss that. I think I'm always like on a
mm,
search to try to get that back. Those
mm.
that richness. I don't know if maybe mindfulness or meditation or something will get me that, but the richness. Do you know what I mean? I think that's what
Hmm.
you miss in life when you get older. And we get it in our books. When we
Yeah.
narrate people's books, you can hear writers have to refine it, don't they?
I think you really have to choose as you get older if you're going to let your world get narrower and narrower and narrower, or if you're going to continue to challenge yourself to keep
Mm,
evolving and expanding your world, because it's still available, but I think it takes a more concerted effort as you age.
a conscious choice. Okay, so 10 years old,
Yeah.
you go to school. Um, Straight arrow to the acting, or did you derail at any point?
No, I graduated when I was 16 from high school, and then I went to the University of Washington in Seattle for what I thought would be pre-med and acting. And quickly it was like, okay, so science, I respect it, I love it. That's not the way my brain works. So science and math were not my strongest suits, and I realized that yeah, surgery was not going to be in my future. Thank
Why
goodness.
why was
So
it
I
why was it on board in the beginning? Was it, oh, I have to make a living as well as acting, or was it I'm really interested
no,
in this?
I think it was a coping mechanism. As all of the orthopedic surgeries that I had had growing up, I thought it probably gave me a way to make sense of it. This will be part of what I do with my life. This
Yeah,
is why this is in my life, so it can be part of my career. And then there was no interest whatsoever in that at all. And
yeah.
now, knowing more, having more maturity, I realized that would not have been the place for me whatsoever. So I started at the University of Washington and majored in English and drama, and within a couple years auditioned at Cornish College of the Arts, which is a small conservatory, and really started over as a freshman again
When you
at
found out you got
Cornish. And
in, where were you when you found out you got in? How did that feel? Did you have any
uh,
doubts?
I,
Were you really confident? Was it like, oh my God, this happened? That was like a
no,
turning
I had
point.
no, yeah, no, I didn't have any doubts, and I knew that that was what I wanted to do. I did attend University of Washington for the first 2 years with real passion and real drive, And
Okay.
I ran into a roadblock of a teacher who did not believe in me and did not support me, and ultimately told me that she would not facilitate me going on to higher levels of acting education because I had no talent and no future as
Oh
an
my
actor, she told me.
God.
So I needed to stop and find a different career path. And I had in my back jeans pocket my acceptance letter and a scholarship offer from Cornish. And I took it out and I said, I'm leaving UW and I'm going to Cornish and I don't need you. And I always felt like that was such a personal thing. And then a couple years ago, I talked to an acquaintance in the audiobook industry, and she had been in Seattle and she had studied at UW. And I said, oh, well, you will never believe what this well-known teacher told me. And she said, she told me the same thing. And I thought, oh, it was not personal. It was nothing to do with me. It was nothing to do with this
I
person. It was
can't
only
stand
to do
people
with
like that
her.
though, because a lot of them have this mentality. I might as well tell them the truth. And if they really love it, then they'll conquer it. They'll rise above it. No, screw you. Keep your mouth shut and your opinion to yourself. Right?
Yeah.
Because you can
Well,
tell someone
now,
your truth.
yeah.
It can be wrong at the wrong time and you can like derail them.
Yes, now I teach on the college level, and I cannot imagine ever discouraging any of my students from doing anything.
Yeah.
Anything that they tell me they dream of, I tell them 100% do it. And I also remember going to school for my MFA. I got an MFA in writing from Vermont College of Fine Arts. And there was a woman who began as a new writing student. And I thought at the time, oh, her work is very poor. She doesn't have the skill. I wonder how she got here. She's lovely, but I don't respect her work. And I learned from watching her study and work hard, and she became brilliant. It is it is a choice. Craft is a choice, and you can learn so much craft if you are determined. There's a genius that we might not be able to access, but success is rarely about being a genius. Most geniuses don't actually have a lot of thriving careers because they are so singular in their mindset. What people with successful careers are people who work hard and devote themselves to the study of their craft. So it's silly to ever tell anybody you can't do this or that. It's
And
nonsense.
art is subjective as well. There are a lot of narrators that are famous, famous, famous. It's not my piece of cake. And they're narrators that I think are just amazing. And I brag about them all the time. And people just go, who? And it's
Mm-hmm.
so, and also the people that are successful, that are really, really good, and like they're known for their art, work really hard for their craft. But then there's also the whole other element, right? People that appear successful, that they're good at business. They're good
Mm-hmm.
at marketing, they're good at branding, and which is
Mm-hmm.
great. That's a skill in itself. But it doesn't
Absolutely.
mess, they're not like a Helen Lloyd or a, do you know what I mean? They're not like
Yeah.
making deep, dark acting choices all the time. They're,
Mm-hmm.
it's, yeah, it's, oh, okay. So I'm going to switch around a bit.
Sure.
I hope you don't mind, because I don't want to forget all the questions I have. I have like a zillion questions. This one I'll sneak in real quick so that they won't go, oh God, here she's going to go off on a tangent. But on your TED Talk, you made me realize something just listening to it fresh. You learned from, I mean, I'm not going to, it's an amazing, heartfelt TED Talk. I'm not like reducing it to a nutshell, guys, just to get to a point. So definitely listen to the whole thing. But you talked about being in pain, and learning to accept and let go and go with it and have a new relationship with your pain. I wonder, and I have ulterior motives for asking this, because I didn't realize till I listened to your TED Talk that I'd had a brain tumor for 5 years. So I had
Mm-hmm.
intense headaches, and then almost went blind before they finally figured it out in quite a dramatic way. But I mean, I'm
Wow.
fine. They're gone now. But what I
Good.
realized was I've now become a person. I didn't think I was. I was very proud. I showed up by myself, walked to the hospital, didn't tell anyone, got it dealt with. I was so good. I was detached. I just like don't think about it. I was really proud of myself, how I dealt with that amount of pain that I knew would like kill a normal person for that long.
Mm-hmm.
And just listening to your TED Talk, I realized pain shapes who you are. The things you go through in life shape who you are. And that's changed who I am. I now think
Mm-hmm.
that I've got assumptions I make because of that experience, that people don't believe what I say. They think I'm exaggerating or being over dramatic,
Mm-hmm.
that the world isn't a safe place and something could kill me at any moment. And, you know, how did you deal with that? How, after having that kind of intense pain, how do you not, I know you take good things from it, good changes. You're probably a stronger person. You wouldn't undo that. I wouldn't undo my experiences in life.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm saying this with all confidence that every single person on this call has their own brain tumor. See what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? Maybe just in a different place. They have something. How do you take the good and then face the change that, because not all the changes to you are necessarily good. How do you overcome that? Have you overcome that? And what's your relationship with the things about yourself that might not have been positive after the change, after all
Yeah.
that pain?
I mean, I've had a ton of counseling since I was 19 and will continue to have counseling, I think, forever, because I don't think we can deal with things in the I can't totally go it alone. I need wise teachers to guide me. Um, I do have a meditation practice. It's, I just skipped like 3 weeks of my meditation practice and then came back to it and thought, why did I leave it for a day? I really need this consistently. It really
What,
grounds me.
that's interesting. How do you experience that? What's the difference between you not having meditated for a few weeks and how you normally feel in a tangible, is there a way to express it in a tangible way?
Yeah, it felt like I had been dehydrated and then I finally drank a big glass of water. It was really
Really?
like a physical sensation of, oh, this actually really does make a difference in my psychological well-being on a day-to-day basis. So even if it's just 10 minutes, it's not, a deeply mature practice like I hope someday it is. I'm not walking on the astral plane. It's just really just sitting and breathing for 10 quiet minutes in the
Like those
morning.
people that go away to retreats and like don't talk for 3 days. Why? I mean,
That sounds great. That sounds wonderful.
I would last about 30 seconds. So, okay, so because what I loved, you I'm fascinated by people's cracks. I'm fascinated by people's strengths. I'm fascinated. You became my hero the minute you got up on a TED Talk in front of billions of people and started crying and begged
First of all,
them.
it was a TEDx talk, and I think there were like 25 people. So
See, I don't know the difference. What's the difference? I don't know the difference between a TED or a TED.
TED is like I think TEDx are the ancillary. They're um, under the rubric of TED, and that you can't just. I don't think you have to go through some things, but it's like junior TED. I don't know. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. It was the scariest thing I've ever done, and I think it's one of the most important things I've ever done. So I'm not trying to denigrate it. I just want to say there were not billions of people, but if
You
people
went
want to watch it, I'm
you
happy to.
went to your core. You went to the
Mm.
one of the hardest things. And it was obvious that you were afraid. And you went straight there
Yeah.
and you tried to give it to people. You tried to give that knowledge and experience and understanding and passion. You could see the effort. And see, to me, that encapsulates everything we're trying to do as narrators, as actors, is we're desperately trying to communicate the core.
Mm.
And it's not our
Yeah.
words when we're a narrator, but there's a core, there's what it really is. And
Yeah.
you, in just that short talk, you took what it really is to you right here. This will help you. Here it is. I'm offering it. And it was the most generous, brave thing I've seen in a very long time. It was just
Thank you.
astounding to me. And I think it's what we're all desperate. I mean, I know I know you guys really want to know about all the awards and everything. And I know we've got to talk about that as well. But that right there is the key to me of what every actress, every actor, every narrator, that did it feel good afterwards? Did you feel drained and wrung out like you'd done something
Yeah,
spectacular?
it really was the scariest thing I have ever done. And I've done a lot of really, really hard and scary things. I think I constantly challenge myself to do hard things, but that was so hard and so terrifying. And I was shaking the whole time. And then afterwards, I just felt like I am so glad I did that. And I never want to do that again. That was horrible.
Oh,
And
it's
if somebody
wonderful.
offered me another opportunity, I would definitely say yes, but I don't necessarily think it would be any easier because I think that is sort of in my nature is to be that vulnerable and to go that deep and to be that raw. I think that's just how I operate in the world. So I don't know that I would make it any easier on myself.
Yeah, it's that I admire that rawness. I that's to me what all the great artists and actors and the people we remember and the people that touch our lives and change us, that's what they all have in common, is they live from that place of rawness and they're not afraid of it. And so
Yeah.
I roll my eyes a bit when people go too deeply into the business side, and it's just like,
Mm.
what about the important stuff? Can we talk about the important stuff? And it's there for everything. It's there for the book with the guy with no shirt on the cover. There's an important moment. There's the, it's
Hmm.
so, speaking of the business stuff, you're obviously adept at goals, and you're obviously adept at maneuvering and maneuvering at finding your way through the business world. And you'd said that you've won prestigious awards and you've done it by setting goals, career goals. How do you do that? Do you do like a business plan at the beginning of the year? Do you set small, workable milestones to reach the goal? What is your relationship with the goals and the business, and how to become, because you're a crazy success, and in the way that you've got all the markers of success, the publishers, the awards, this and that and this, how much of your business focus and attention do you put on that? What do you do? Is it just part of who you are? Is it something you had to learn? I'm starting you off with
I
all
think
the easy
I'm
questions.
I think I'm learning actually. I'm doing that now more. Like at the beginning of my career, my goal was to be a professional actor and to make my money through performance. And that was audiobooks, and I was on in professional theater and doing some film and some commercial work. And then audiobooks really, really took over. Then my goal was to complete my MFA and get my master's degree in writing. And so I was balancing that with my career. Um, I, I'm getting more organized about my business. I've always loved business, and I feel really comfortable with the business aspects of marketing and networking and record keeping, billing, all of that. I feel like it's creative as well as the art is creative. Now I'm really at a maturing point in my company where my business has developed, so I'm recording audiobooks, I'm directing, probably more than I'm narrating these days, although I'm still narrating a ton. I'm directing a lot, and I'm producing podcasts in the nonfiction space and developing some fiction podcasts and
The
running a
American
company. And
Archers,
so,
right?
yeah, I worked on an American Archers adaptation for 4 years, and that's still it's still in the mix. It's really unclear where that project is going, although I remain really passionate and just had a dinner meeting about that on Saturday night. Um,
Can we see
that
it
has not
somewhere? Can we hear it somewhere? Is it out there?
Not yet. No, it was in relationship with the BBC for 4 years, and we were co-developing it for 4 years, and then it went as far in the BBC as they wanted to take it, and so like that felt like a huge failure for a while because
Oh,
I had made these deep relationships with people in the BBC who will be lifelong friends, and we all believed in this project, and we worked for 4 whole years on it. And then the kind of corporate level said, it came down to the wire and they said, we're going to pass on it. And we were all brokenhearted. And I felt like this is absolutely devastating. This is the project of my heart and soul, and one that I've put out publicly is in the works. And I haven't gotten it over the finish line. Who am I without this project? Who am I without this brand name associated with my brand name? It was really devastating. And I had to decide, what do I do next? Where do I go from here? And so I gave myself time to grieve it, and then to reconsider, is this still important to me? Do I want to pursue it in a different way? And I do. And so I am still pursuing it, but it's a long-term thing. And in the meantime, my nonfiction podcasts are winning awards. I'm getting new contracts with amazing clients who recognize me as a really skilled podcast producer. So my career continues to grow, but I don't have the sense on a day-to-day basis like, wow, I am so successful. Everything I touch turns to gold. Not by any means. I feel like insecure, uncertain. Somebody else interviewed me earlier and she said, you must never have to audition for books. And I said, I audition all the time and I don't book more than I do book. So I'm just in the middle of building my career. And now I'm transitioning to no longer being a freelancer, but to running a company with a CFO who's my partner, with much more mature business practices. And so you asked about the business plan. I've always had like a loose business plan that's based on, what do I want to learn next? What kind of new skills do I want to build? And now I'm thinking, if I want to be the businesswoman who runs an audio company that develops intellectual property across mediums, how do I build a bigger team? How do I teach other people what I've learned to do? How do I oversee and manage? And then where do I do the day-to-day work of being a craftsperson? Because I don't just want to be a CEO of a company. I want to be a working artist entrepreneur. So what does that look like that still scales, but is true to my values and lets me be on the day-to-day making art myself? So
And
it's a lot to juggle.
Sorry, I keep interrupting you. Think about the BBC thing.
No.
If you look at the lesson in that, right? You created something. That's so clear. You created something. Once you create it, it lives. It's a living thing. And just because of a random bureaucratic decision to like let that die. And so you took yourself out of the picture and stopped it being about who am I, and brought it back to, what is this? I've created this thing I love and I have to keep loving it, which is the hardest part of the job, isn't it? Take us out of it. Who am I? Are they going to like me? Am I going to get an award for this one? Is a publisher going to like me? And make it about serving the project. And that's what the decision you made. It can't have been easy, because it's hard, because we're facing it, the mirror every day when we do it, or our voices. Who am I is a big thing. That's like going over that bit.
Yeah.
I can't wait. It'll be amazing when it's out.
Yeah, I think it will too. And I thought I got to the highest echelons of this world brand. I opened doors. I made that happen myself. So that's successful. I learned a ton. I have relationships with people who believe in me and believe in the project, and those are not changed. So you have to just really choose. I was telling a student the other day, she was really disappointed about something. And I said, listen, 10 days ago, I booked a national voiceover spot for a luxury car brand. That is a life-changing voiceover job. It's life-changing money. It's what every voiceover aspires to do. And I booked that gig. And 30 minutes later, my agent said they're going in a different direction. I have to choose what story I tell. I booked the gig. I got that job. That's a win. I did it. It didn't quite turn out the way I wanted, but I did it. So I can either tell the story of like complete failure or complete success. I'm writing my story as I go. So it's up to me to be mentally strong and make decisions about what stories I tell.
And you learn that in acting. I mean, that's like, you get that lesson a lot in acting. The jobs you get and the job I got because they decided the girl they wanted was too pretty. So they had me instead. The job I lost that was really high paying would have paid my rent for 6 months. But for like a big company over here, but there was another guy they hired, and they said that, and it was like on the stage, and they said nobody wants to see people that old in the same room as a bed.
Ah, yeah,
And
nobody over 25 ever has sex. It's
you know
only
what I mean?
25 and under.
You
Yeah.
just kind of like it just y- you either like get
Yeah.
over it or but it hurts. It still hurts when you love something. When you
Oh,
my
yeah.
trick is not caring, but sometimes you care and you can't
Oh,
stop
yeah.
caring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you just have to really feel it, let that like actually affect you, and then feel it for real without, surrender to it. Let that be as big as it is and then move through it and like put a timeline because you can feel. I'm still feeling the BBC thing and still have questions.
Yeah.
So that was a big blow, but we just have to surrender to the pain, feel the pain, process it, move on.
Because the more you care, the more it hurts. But also
Yeah.
the bigger the nugget of potential. Do you know what I mean? The more it hurts,
Yeah.
the more drive you have, and the more it could be. You've
Yeah.
already got the contacts. I mean, the only thing to get from them, rather than going the other way, is the contacts. You've got them. So now you've got more
Yeah.
creative control.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it's exciting. I can't
Yeah.
wait to see it. I was a fan of
Thanks.
the Archers, so I'm looking
I
forward to
love
it.
the Arches. I
Yeah.
still listen every single day and always will.
Yeah, I'm not that good. I've got a very short attention span. Um, Lessons you've taught yourself. Like, how do you feel you've changed over the years since you became a narrator? Things that you wish you'd known
I
then.
Yeah. I mean, I really wish that I had um known how to rest and to play earlier. It's still really hard for me to rest and to play, and I'm trying to teach myself that and allow for that. So I wish that I had built in more rest earlier on. Uh, I I've spent a lot of time away from my family. They're in Idaho. We talk virtually every day. I'm so close to them, but I've chosen a lot of career development over time in their company, and um, I don't know if that's a regret because I try to live without regret, but just I want to keep prioritizing my life and not my work. They're intertwined, but they're not the same.
Yeah.
Um, I'm in a really happy, really healthy relationship and have been for 7 years, and that's a real
That's
blessing.
lovely.
Um,
Where did you guys
and
meet?
he teaches me a lot
Where did you
through
guys
the
eyes
audiobook
across the
industry.
room? Oh, you did. Oh, you worked together.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
great.
he's a casting director, producer. He's the executive producer for Blackstone. So,
Oh,
yeah, we've been together
is
a
it
long time.
Brian? Oh, sorry. I don't normally drag people's personal
Yeah,
lives,
yeah,
but I love the romance. I love like, oh, our eyes met
yeah.
across a crowded room, and she hated me at first sight, and now we're madly in love. I love that kind of thing. You can tell that I worked
Yeah.
at a dating agency for a while.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. Yep.
No, that's very romantic. And so, how does
Yeah.
it work? You guys being in the same. I think what saved my marriage is the fact that my husband doesn't have a clue what I do. He refers to you guys as my
Oh.
imaginary friends. So how do you guys like work in the same industry and not drive each other crazy?
It can be hard because sometimes I'm badly behaved and um he'll be like, could I get my book? It's past the deadline. I'm like, but you know how busy I am. He's like, but I need my book because it's the deadline. That's your job. So we have a pretty good separation of church and state.
Yeah.
I don't get, he's very honorable and he has so much integrity. He's not going to tell me things that are not my business. He's very, he treats his job with great professionalism. And I think that is something really that's helped us have a good relationship around our shared work. But we do share the same vocabulary and we can understand each other's
Yeah.
difficulties and challenges and help each other. And what's wonderful is when we get to work together. So last year we directed, and he produced and I directed Tanner Buchanan narrating The Great Gatsby. And then we did The Sun Also Rises with James
That's
Gandolfini.
lovely.
And working in the studio together when Brian is producing and I'm directing and we are working together, it's been some of the most satisfying experiences, I think, for both of us, because we're learning from each other. You know, we are working so well with the talent, and also the talent is not necessarily, we're not announcing ourselves as a couple working with this talent. We're professionals in the studio together, and then on the last day we're like, we're actually a couple, and they're like, oh my God, that's amazing.
But you make me realize Suzanne said that about Scott, because he directed her and on like this amazing project, and she said it was the most fulfilling. She learned so much. Johnny and Joanna, Anna and Sean. I think about all the couples I know that work together in the audiobook industry, and they're all really strong teams. And that's like kind of unheard of, because I think about couples I worked with in corporate places, and literally I expect to see them on a true crime show any day now. You know what I mean?
Hopefully we will never be on a true crime show together.
But I think it's because it's a different breed. It's a good, and you've got, I'm assuming, and I'm only assuming by the reaction I got when I posted the video about your call, that you have deep relationships with people in the industry, right? You don't have just like, you're not just a name. People genuinely felt they knew you and like you, like, as you know, you've made an impact on a personal level, which you can always tell. I
feel really grateful for that. And one of the things that I said when I won Best Female Narrator in 2017 and got a chance to give a thank you speech and an acceptance speech was that this industry has given me a life, a home. It's paid for my master's degree and put food on my table and my kitties and my dog's table. It's also given me deep friendships that have carried me through some of the most lonely, difficult times of my life. And I feel really, really blessed to have the friendships, the relationships that I do. There's such deep loyalty and love and connection. We've been through a lot together, and I feel really grateful. It's rare.
Yeah, I was getting ready. I had some really bad news before a recent call, and like very bad news. You know, everyone has a very bad week, very bad news that hits you, like, you know, blindsides you. And I had to be on the call like 30 minutes later, and I had like no idea, because I like was so, and I was like, makeup, you know, and I realized these calls have saved my life. Whereas a lot of people had very stressful, horrible last few years. Showing up and interviewing people in this industry, and just the wisdom and the strength and the talent. And I mean, I couldn't pay for coaching. I know that's not what these calls are about, but you know, the connection with the amazing people, and then also having to put your makeup on once a week, no matter what, because God knows what I'd look like. But it's like, it's not a hardship. You might not want to do it 5 minutes before the call, but it's like exercise. It's like keeps you sane.
Yeah.
You know, connection with people in the industry.
For sure.
So, okay, so you're an audiobook narrator. You love it. What's your favorite genre?
I really love nonfiction. I love biography, memoir. Nonfiction is what I studied as a writer, so it feels very close to my heart. I actually really enjoy a good sort of thriller, like Louise Luna's series is pretty dark. The main character is Alice Vega, and she is a tough, pretty violent woman, and I really like that series a lot.
You're talking my love language here.
Yeah. But really, any story that's well told, any book where the writer has put themselves out with as much vulnerability and courage and truth. I don't care what genre it is. If it's, you know, deeply true and exposed, vulnerable.
Have you changed? Have you changed through any of the books that you've read along the path?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I'm always learning, you know, learning and growing. And I feel like I've also made really good friends. There are a handful of writers whose books I've narrated who I've kind of kept forever and will always. So that's really been enriching to make friendships with people.
And sometimes, I still feel this way. Every once in a while, you'll like be talking to somebody and you'll realize, oh my God, you narrated that book I listened to
Mm,
years ago that was like, we're a writer. It was like, I can't believe I know them personally. You know
mm,
what I mean? Sometimes your own personal little heroes and you realize that you're
yeah,
like running into them.
yeah,
So what do
yeah.
you want? What's your next big dream and wish, and what are you striving for?
That's a good question. And I actually cleaned off my desk for the first time in months lately. I was so proud of myself. And I found where I had written out what I want. And I was so glad to come across it because I thought this is exactly what I want. Let me see if I can find it. If I can't, I'll just say that I lead an international creative uh, um, highly successful business that creates stories that bring meaning and purpose to people's lives. That wasn't quite it, but I want to tell stories that actually make a difference in the world, that make people, that awaken people, that connect people, that make people feel less alone. Um, I want to be producing work across genres, and I want to be running a business that allows me to teach people what I've learned and to have them give them an opportunity to do their best work and lead that kind of big business. I want to be big, not in like,
The ripples
I
that
guess I'm trying
grow
to,
in the
yeah,
pond.
exactly.
Yeah. Do you, in all your directing, and you've coached people and you've produced, what do you wish people understood that you can't just get them to understand or believe deep down just by telling them? Is there something you wish you could share with them that they would like understand viscerally rather than, that's my frustration with teaching. You say something to somebody, but they're not going to hear the message until they're also, my way of saying it is a little bit like impatient. I'm not a great teacher, but
Mm.
what do you wish you could give to people as a lesson that they might not necessarily understand when they're new and don't have the experience?
I mean, I think it's the same lesson that my teachers have been telling me for 25 years that I never really got, that you are enough. You are enough. And my teachers in college said that, and then in grad school they said that, and in coaching they say that. And I feel like I'm about 25 maybe years into my career, and I'm starting, and as I teach people or direct people, I'm also telling them the same thing. And I want to find better language or a better way of offering that to them, because I'm middle aged, I'm mid career, and I'm starting to feel like, oh, that is starting to make sense to me now, that if I do less, I am complete, I am enough. And I certainly have not gotten that any time before now, and I didn't when I was, a 17-year-old drama student. Um, but I'm telling people that now, and then when they sort of like are at the edge of that and they can glimpse it, they can start to let that work in their brains for the next 25 years. But I'd love for that to be accelerated. Like, how do you really get through to somebody? And then
Right?
how do you transform into, oh, I can just be fully inhabited? And that's exactly where I'm trying to get. I feel like a career is coming back. You asked me where I was at 10. A career is coming back to where we were in our most essential, passionate place of the
Yeah.
craft, not the layers that we're now trying to strip away.
Yeah, I wish there was a way to not just with other people, but with myself. When you hear something again, you go back and you revisit a book and you're like, I'm a different person now. So it makes sense. That really kind of, I know people think that's amazing. It really pisses me off because I'm like,
Mm.
I've wasted 10 years getting the stupid message. And we held a workshop on mindset, and I had some of
Mm.
the most amazing people on that course. I still got to find time to go back through some of Karen Commons and Andrea and
Mm.
Andy and Anna. And there are things in that workshop that could help sustain a career for your life. But
Mm-hmm.
we were trying to offer everything in one day, in one package. And I wonder how many people took from it. I'd like to think everyone was moved and able, and you never know. But I
Mm-hmm.
think their teaching is a talent that, you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like you can't just tell people what you want them to know. They've
Right.
they've got to receive it. And I don't know how to do that.
Right.
But you coach, so you obviously know how to do that.
I coach a little bit occasionally, but I teach. And
Yeah.
then when I don't direct my peers in audiobooks because they don't need me, but I direct new talent. So I'm working this week with a very new talent, and I'm able to really teach her the craft, and it feels great to teach. But a lot of teaching is encouraging and holding space for students to dream and have big ideas and to be vulnerable, take risks. It's not necessarily as much about like, I want you to know how to do this thing. That's part of it, but it's really, I want you to be curious. I want you to be bold, courageous, vulnerable, fail,
That makes sense. So you're not
resilience,
trying to
all
fill
of
their
that.
mind with all the information you've garnered. You're giving them space to figure it out for themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't be good at that. Because my brain is like very impatient. Okay, let's get all the facts. Okay,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
we've covered they'll never forgive me. I tried to get out of it last time and Sean caught me. They'll never forgive me if I don't ask the final question that I love to ask the guests. So in school, people used to put they'd bury, I think it might just be an 80s or 90s thing, but they would bury a guy's time capsule. I've got a
Mm.
mental block for the word. They'd bury a time capsule and the students could put something in it that would be dug up years later. And it would signify, class of 1892 or whatever, or what would you put in the time capsule for people watching this YouTube video in like 60 years that you would want them, the one thing that you would want to give them when they think of Tavia's call? Like words of
Mm.
wisdom, a funny joke, even something you'd want to leave people with that you'd want them to see in 60 years.
My mom's
Oh,
stained
and
glass art.
stained glass art.
My mother's.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love
My
that.
mom is an artist. She's many things, a musician and an artist and a writer, and never in a formal capacity, but just as a way of living in the world, going through the world. So if I had to leave one thing behind that is me, it would be her stained glass.
And that explains a lot of who Tavia is, doesn't it? Having
Mm,
parents that are an artist for the sake of art.
yeah.
And then your grandfather, because a lot of people from that generation that were impoverished, they didn't have money, they had a scarcity mentality, they kept things small.
Hmm.
Your grandfather strived and rose above it, which is the part of Tavia that is also success in business is important to you and you consider it part of your art. I just think it's lovely. It's like the pieces of the
Hmm.
puzzle fitting together, the 10-year-old Tavia, and then all the puzzle pieces and the great people that are in your life, the stained glass from your mom, the stories from your grandfather, they all fit together. I think it's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so we do have a question. I've got your back, Lisa. Can we please find out? Lisa would love to know about the amazing folding screen behind you. It's
Oh, yeah.
beautiful.
Thank you. I think it was $125. It's from, I just got it online when we moved into this house because it hides my really ugly, beat up whisper room.
Oh,
Um, and it's my favorite one. So I can email Daniela afterward and let you know what company. It has lots of great designs. But yes, this one is definitely very pink and
it's
very me.
gorgeous. It's gorgeous. Very chic. Very chic. I use fake backgrounds and your real background looks better than those. So, yeah. So thank you so much. I'm so glad.
Thank
I wanted you on a
you.
call for so long. I kind of bugged Tavia quite a bit. Tavia.
No, no, I'm sorry. I was so busy and so difficult to reach, but you're a wonderful interviewer and you're obviously asked me questions nobody else has or would, and I really appreciate that. It's great. And I'm very honored to be with all of you. Thank you for sharing your time with me.
Well, thank
It's
you. And
really
we
nice
didn't
to
say anything about sisters, so probably no editing, but let me know.
no
But
editing needed.
you're a terrific guest. It was wonderful. I shall be bugging you in
Thank
a year or
you.
so. Great, Tavia.
I appreciate it.
Actually,
Thank you for the
also,
invitation.
when the BBC thing comes out, come on here and tell us all about it. The journey from how
I
you made it
will.
come true. I'd love to hear that
I
because we'll
will.
feel like
I
we were
will.
there in the beginning.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Thank you,
Wonderful. Thank you.
friends. Really
Mwah.
nice to connect with you.
Thank you, guys. Mwah. You're all
Have a
wonderful.
wonderful afternoon.
Bye. Bye, Tavia. It was really
Take
nice to
care.
meet you.
Thank you again. You too.
Bye. Bye.